Devaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Jaya Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Tirayet Nashtapraye Shavadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtike. So continuing with the discussion on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 14, Lord Chaitanya's childhood pastimes, text 38 onwards. Chore laya gela prabhu ke bahire paiya, tare skande chadi aila tare bhulaiya. In his childhood, the Lord was taken away by two thieves outside his home. The Lord, however, got up on the shoulders of the thieves, and while they were thinking they were safely carrying the child to rob his ornaments, the Lord misled them, and thus instead of going to their own home, the thieves came back to the home of Jagannath Mishra. So that's a background I got today. In his childhood, the Lord was profusely decorated with gold ornaments. Once upon a time, when the Lord was playing outside his house, two thieves passing on the street saw the opportunity to rob him. Therefore, they took him on their shoulders, pleasing him by offering him some sweetmeats. The thieves thought they would carry the child to the forest and then kill him and take away the ornaments. The Lord, however, expanded his illusory energy upon the thieves, so much so that instead of carrying him to the forest, they came right back in the front of his house. When they came before his house, they became afraid because everyone from the house of Jagannath Mishra and all the inhabitants of that quarter were busy searching for the child. Therefore, the thieves, thinking it dangerous to remain, went away and left him. The child was brought within the house and given to Mother Shachi, who was in great anxiety, and she became satisfied. This incident is also very elaborately explained in the Adi Khanda of Chaitanya Bhagavad, 3rd chapter. So these two thieves, they took Nimai away and they thought, okay, we'll take away his ornaments, but let's not take away the ornaments right now. He might start crying. So let's go a little bit far away. And in the process, they've offered him some mithai, shandesh, and put him on the shoulder as shown in the background. And Nimai was happy. Nimai was playing with them and they were playing with him. And in the house, Jagannath Mishra, Sachimata, they all became afraid. They were looking for Nimai. They were asking everybody in the street, have you seen Nimai? Have you seen? And they were all fearful that something has happened. And Nimai was not talking. He was not that big to start talking. Then he was just laughing around, laughing, and thieves were talking to him. And they were feeding him Sunday. They thought they got the child under control. But as Prabhupada said, the illusory energy of Maya, of Nimai, worked on the thieves. And they went around and they came back right in front of the house of Jagannath Mishra. And they saw this is a house. And they let the child go and they ran away from it. And when Jagannath Mishra found Nimai and he asked, where did he go? And he, in broken language, he said, some nice people, they gave me shandesh and they brought me home. But see, Nimai even gave the thieves a chance to do devotional service by taking him around on their shoulders and feeding him sweets. He gave them a chance. He would not give chance to Mayavadis, but these thieves, they were sinners, but they're not offenders. So, who knows, maybe when he awarded them pure devotional service, who knows. But these are his plans. Vyadhi chale jagdi shiranya sadani Vishnu nevedya khaila ekadashi. Pretending to be sick, the Lord asked some food from the house of Hiranya and Jagdish on the Ekadashi day. The Chaitanya Bhagavad Adi Khanda chapter 6 fully describes the Lord's accepting Vishnu Prasadam on the Ekadashi day at the house of Jagdish and Hiranya. Regular prasadam is offered to Lord Vishnu on Ekadashi because although fasting is recommended for devotees on Ekadashi, it is not recommended for Lord Vishnu. It's not recommended. But at home, we cook Ekadashi prasadam because who's going to eat the regular prasadam? Once on Ekadashi in the house of Jagdish and Hitanya Pandit, there were arrangements for preparing special prasadam for Lord Vishnu. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked his father to go there to ask for the Vishnu prasadam because he was feeling sick. He said, I'm feeling sick. The house of Jagdish and Hitanya Pandit was situated about 2 miles from the house of Jagannath Mishra. Therefore, when Jagannath Mishra, on the request of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, came to ask Jagdish and Hiranya for the prasadam, they were a little astonished. How could the boy understand that special prasadam was being prepared for Lord Vishnu? They immediately concluded that the Mai must have supernatural mystic powers. Otherwise, how could he understand that they were preparing special prasadam? Therefore, they immediately sent the food to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through his father, Jagannath Mishra. Nimai was feeling sick, but immediately after eating the Vishnu prasadam, he was cured, and he also distributed the prasadam among his playmates. So among his playmates, the little children, because little children don't need to follow Ekadashi. If they can, fine. If they don't, it's okay. Don't need to. But these are all his wonderful pastimes. Shishu sabalay pada pada shira ghare, churi kari dravya khaye, mare balake. As usual for small children, he learned to play, and with his playmates, he went to the houses of neighboring friends, stealing their eatables and eating them. Sometimes the children fought among themselves. Shishu Sava Sachi Sthane Kaila Nivedana Shoni Shachi Putre Kichu Dila Olahana. All the children lodged complaints of Chachi Mata about the lords, fighting with them and stealing from the neighbors' houses. Therefore, sometimes she used to chastise or rebuke us, just like Krishna would do with his friends also. Kene churi kara, kene mara shishure, kene para ghare yaha, kiba nahi ghare. Shachimata said, why do you steal others' things? Why do you beat the other children? And why do you go inside others' houses? What do you not have in your own house? So these days we are reciting Chorashtakam. Krishna is Navanita Choram and everything. And same thing Nima used to do. Why do you steal others' things? Chatumata would say. This is what his pastimes are. According to the Vedanta Sutra, since creation, maintenance, and annihilation exist in the Supreme Absolute, whatever we find within this material world is already in the spiritual world. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself. How is he stealing and how is he fighting? It is not a thief or an enemy, but as a friend in a loving condition. He steals as a child, not because he is in want, but out of natural instinct. And natural instinct, he's not actually stealing. Everything belongs to him. So what he can steal? We steal because something is not ours. So we want to steal. Everything is Krishna's or Mahaprabhu's. How can they steal? In this material world also, small children without enmity or bad will sometimes go to a neighboring house and steal, and sometimes we find. Krishna also, like other children, did all these things in his time. And now, Prabhupada, without the existence of the stealing propensity and fighting propensity in the spiritual world, they cannot exist here in this material world. The difference between the spiritual and material worlds is that stealing in the spiritual world is done in friendship and love, not out of enmity or enviousness. Whereas fighting and stealing within this material world are executed on the basis of enmity and envy. Huge difference. So that is why, because people don't understand, the spiritual level is not very high. Oh, if Krishna can do, we can do. If Krishna can do Ras Lila, I can also go out with other girls or others' wives. Huge difference. There's no comparison. None. Not even close. And similarly about Lord Shiva, they say, oh, Lord Shiva smoked ganja, so I can smoke ganja. No. Shivji also keeps so many snakes around his neck. So try to do one, keep one around your neck. Therefore, we should understand that in the spiritual world, all these activities exist, but there is no inability or no fault in that. Whereas in the material world, all activities are full of miserable conditions. So, Nimai can do all this, we cannot. Shuni krudh haya prabhu, ghar bhitar yaya, ghare yat bhanda chela felila bhangiya. Thus rebuked by his mother, the Lord would go in the room, go in anger to her room and break all the parts within it. It would go in anger. Now this anger is also transcendental. It's not like our anger, mode of passion and ignorance. It's transcendental. Tabe shachi kole kare kareila santosha, lajita haila prabhu jani nij dosha. Then Shachimata would take her son on her lap and pacify him, and the Lord would be very much ashamed, admitting his faults. Of course, Krishna Kaviraj Goswami is not giving all the childhood pastime. This is, if he is going to break the parts, means he must be a little young boy, not a baby, Nimai. So he's just going through main pastimes. There's a nice description of the faults of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his childhood in Chaitanya Bhagavat, where it is said that as a child, the Lord used to steal all kinds of eatables from the houses of neighboring friends. In some houses, he would steal milk and drink it, and in others, he would steal and eat prepared rice. Sometimes he would break cooking pots if there were nothing to eat, but there were small babies. The Lord would tease the babies and make them cry. Sometimes a neighbor would complain to Shachimata, my child is very small and your child puts water in his ears and makes him cry. Similarly, Krishna would also used to do all this. If he goes to any house and he doesn't find butter to steal, then he would make the child cry over there. Kabhu mridu haste kela mata ke tana, mata ke murchita dekhi karai krana. Once a child, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, chastised his mother with his soft hand, and his mother pretended to faint. Seeing this, the Lord began to cry. Nari gana kahe nari kela dehani, tabe shushta hai bena tomara janani. The neighboring ladies told him, dear child, please bring a coconut from somewhere and then your mother will be cured. Because she pretended to faint. Bahire yaya anilena dui narikela dekhiya purva haila vismita sakka. He then went outside the house and immediately brought 2 coconuts. All the ladies were astonished to see such wonderful activities. Kabhu Shishu Sangishnan Karila Gangate Kanyagana Aila Taha Devata Pujite. And this is also another pastime. Sometimes the Lord would go with other children to bathe in the Ganges, and the neighboring girls would also come there to worship various demigods. So according to Vedic system, when small girls 10 or 12 years old would go to the bank of the Ganges to take their bath, they would especially worship Lord Shiva with prayers to get good husbands in the future. They especially wanted to get a husband like Lord Shiva because Lord Shiva is very peaceful and at the same time most powerful. Formerly, therefore, small girls in Hindu families would worship Lord Shiva, especially in the month of Vaishak, April, May. To take a bath in the Ganges is a great pleasure for everyone, not only for adults, but for children also. especially children really enjoying the water, playing in the water. So all these girls would also go to take bath and they would worship Lord Shiva. They would take different paraphernalia to worship Lord Shiva. And what Nimai would do, Ganga Sthana Kari Puja, Kari Tela Gila, Kanya Gana Madhya Prabhu Asiya Bashila. When the girls engaged in worshipping the different demigods after bathing in the Ganges, the young Lord would come there and sit down among them. Kanyare ka he ama puja, ami dibavara, Ganga Durga Dasi Mora, Mahesha Kinkara. Addressing the girls, the Lord would say, worship me and I shall give you good husbands, so good benedictions. The Ganges and Goddess Durga are my maid servants. What to speak of other demigods? Even Lord Shiva is my servant. Now, he is speaking the truth, but look at what the girls would say. There is a misconception about the Hindu religion among people who profess other religions, such as Christians and Muslims, who say that in the Hindu religion, there are many gods. Actually, that's not a fact. God is one, but there are many other powerful living entities who are in charge of different departments of administration. They're called demigods. Of course, in Hindi, the term is Devata, and there's no real English word for it, so demigods is used. All the demigods are servants who carry out the orders of the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu disclosed this fact in his childhood. Out of ignorance, sometimes people worship the demigods to receive some particular boon, but actually, one who becomes a devotee and worshipper of the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not need to go to demigods for any benediction, because he obtains everything by the grace of the Supreme Lord. Bhagavad Gita therefore condemns such demigod worship. Kamastasta hirtagyana prapadyanti anyadevata. Only persons whose intelligence is lost and who are mad with lusty desires worship the demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. But persons who are freed from all sinful activities and the duality of the delusion engage themselves in the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with determination. Only the less intelligent worship the demigods for the various purposes. The most intelligent worship only the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Sometimes we, the members of the Krishna consciousness movement, are accused of not approving of the worship of demigods. But how can we approve of this when it is condemned by Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna? How can we allow people to become foolish and Ritagyan, bereft of intelligence? Our propaganda is simply meant to enable intelligent people to understand the distinction between matter and spirit and understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the whole spiritual identity. That is our mission. How could we mislead people into worshipping so many gods in material bodies within this material world? So that's why they're called devatas. They're not God, but so-called gods. Our position of not allowing worship of many hundreds of demigods was confirmed by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu even in his childhood. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung in this connection. Anya deva shreya nai tomare kahinu bhai, ei bhakti paramakana. To become a staunch, pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead without deviation, one should not divert his attention to the worship of the demigods. Such control is a symptom of pure devotional service. So that's something we have to be careful. Apani chandan pari parin ful mala naivedya ka diya khaya sandesha chalakala. Without the permission of the girls, the Lord would take the sandalwood pulp and smear it on his own body, put the flower garlands on his neck, and snatch and eat all the offerings of sweetmeats, rice, and bananas. According to the system of worship, when something is offered to the deities outside one's home, it is generally not cooked food, but raw rice, bananas, and sweetmeats. Out of his causeless mercy, the Lord would snatch the offerings from the girls and eat them, admonishing the girls not to worship the demigods, but to worship him. This worship of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is recommended in Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam, Sangu Pangastra Parshadam. So one should worship the Supreme Personality of God who appears in this age of Kali with his associates as the Panch Tattva, the Lord himself and his associates, Nityanand Prabhu, Shri Advaita Prabhu, Gadadhar Prabhu and Srivas Thakur. In this age, an intelligent person worships the Panch Tattva by the method of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and, if possible, distributing prasada. Our Krishna consciousness movement is introducing this bona fide method of worship in the Western world. Its members are going from village to village and town to town with deities of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, teaching people how to worship the Lord by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, offering prasadam and distributing prasadam to the people in general. Krodhe kanya gan kahe shun hi nimai, grama sambandhe hao tumi am samarabhai. All the girls became very angry at the Lord for this behavior. Dear Nimai, they told him, you're just like our brother in our village relationship. Ama sabha kare pakshe iha karite na yuaye, nalaha devta sajjana kare anyay. Therefore, it does not behoove you to act like this. Don't take our paraphernalia for worship of the demigods. Don't create a disturbance in this way. Prabhu kahe toma sabha ke dilai vara, toma sabhara bharta habe parama sundara. The Lord replied, my dear sisters, I give you the benediction that your husbands will be very handsome. Pandita vidagda yuva dhana dhanyavan shata shata putra have chirayu matiman. They will be learned, clever, and young, and possess abundant wealth and rice. Not only that, but he will each have 7 sons who will all live long lives and be very intelligent. So, well, earlier this was the desire of every girl. Generally, it is the ambition of a young girl to have a very handsome husband who's learned, clever, young, and rich. According to the Vedic culture, one is rich if he possesses a large stock of food grain and a very large number of animals. Nowadays, animals means horsepower. Means the cars should have good horsepower, then he's rich. Dhanyana dhanavana gavaya dhanva. One is rich if he possesses food grains, cows and bulls. A girl also desires to have many children, especially sons, putra, who are very intelligent and long-lived. Now, because society has deteriorated, there is a propaganda to have 1 or 2 children and kill the rest by contraceptive methods. But the natural ambition of a girl is to possess not only more than 1 child, but at least half a dozen. This is what Prabhupada is writing. I didn't say anything. Prabhupada, natural ambition of a girl. In exchange for the paraphernalia of worship he observed for himself, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to bless the girls to fulfill all their ambitions and desires. One can easily become happy and obtain the material benedictions of a good husband, wealth, food grain, and a number of nice children by worshipping Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So generally, girls, as Prabhupada said, or they were gone to worship Lord Shiva for all this. The Prabhupada said, just by worshipping Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one can get all this. Although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas at an early age, it is not necessary for his devotees to follow him by also taking sannyas. One can stay a householder, but one must be a devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then one will be happy with all the material opulences of a good home, good children, good maid, good wealth, and everything he desires. Therefore, the Shastra's advice, Yajna Sankirtan Prayar Yajanti hi Sumedasa. Every householder, therefore, who is actually intelligent should introduce the Sankirtan movement home to home and live peacefully in this life and go back to Godhead in the next. Okay, I guess we can stop here. See anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna.